discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, today I thought I would do something different. If you've seen my only discussion that I've put up whenever I reached 100 subscribers, I did a versus. I did a board games versus video games, and I kind of left it kind of ambiguous in the sense that which one is better, hence the versus. And for me personally, it was board games. I recently read an article today about how games that have come out, most recently actually, are more scenario-based games, meaning that they give you a scenario, you play it once, you figure it out, and that's it. So, games like Time Stories, Sherlock Holmes, Consulting Detective, what other games like that I have? I mean, even Last Night on Earth, that gives players basically a one-time play. Oh, Pandemic Legacy, that was another one. Legacy games, Risk Legacy. And for some reason, there is a uneasy feeling about games that give you only a one-time play. And these games are expensive. So whenever you're shelling out in the United States, $60 to $80, even to $100 on a board game, you expect to get your money's worth out of it. And don't get me wrong, I completely understand that. Because my gaming preference, as always, even with video games, has been replayability. So today I want to talk about replayability versus, don't know what the opposite of that is. Not replayability, standard one-time games. Sit back, relax, and enjoy what I have to say. Okay, so first off, I want to get this out of the way. I want to say that I favor replayability. Not only in board gaming, but in video games. With video games, I play games like Dragon Age Inquisition, The Witcher 3, the other Dragon Age games that give you a choice and will be different each time you play it. And here's the problem with that. I haven't even beat those games. I've beaten the other Dragon Ages, but not Inquisition, and I haven't beat The Witcher 3. And the problem with games that give you replayability is most people want to feel like, oh, if I buy this game for $60, we'll just use that, $60, I will definitely get my money's worth out of it. Even if I only play it once, I know I can go back, play it again, and get a completely different experience. Nothing wrong with that, at all. That's the reason why I haven't even beaten The Witcher 3, and I bought it. It's one of my favorite games, and I haven't even beaten it, because I know there are choices. Now, coming back to board games that when you set them up, either it's a completely random setup, you shuffle a deck of cards and draw one, and you're like, oh, well, this is a scenario, whatever. Or this is who you get. How I play, some games try and get rid of that with like characters. Let's just use Talisman. Talisman is like you get to draw 2 or draw 3 and choose who you want to keep. That's not how I play. I like giving people a character and be like, this is who you get. Sorry, that's who you are this game. I do that with everything. Even if there are 10 characters in the entire game, I don't let people look at them. I don't let people, because in games like that, where you can choose the characters, if you played the game before, that gives you an unfair advantage because you know who to get. And like Smash Up, for example, if you're doing the card drafting, you know what works with what. Unless it's completely different, you've never played with any of those factions, which is highly unlikely if you play that game a lot. You know that, okay, Bear Cavalry is a good one to get. I know how that works. Even if you get some other crappy faction, you know how one of them works. Now, games that allow replayability or have huge replayability are my preferred. Because I am one of those people that feels like getting your money's worth out of it. I want to spend, $60 on a game and can play it 20 times and never have the same game. To me, that's exciting. To me, it's like, okay, we're going to set this up, and if it's a strategy game, I have to think differently. Oh, crap, well, last game, this place was like this, but this game, it's completely different. How am I going to win? How am I going to deal with this? And that's fun. That's unique. That's innovative whenever you are thrown into this world, and you have to react as you would react. That's a blast. Games like... Wish I had some good examples for you. I mean, I have a whole bunch of board games. Not as much as I'd like, but games like Cosmic Encounter. Now, I understand it's not really a board game, but that's a game where it's supposed to be different each time. The box even says different every time you play. And as the epitome of replayability, that has to be it. So if you got to choose which race and you're like, well, this race was really good, I mean, you're not really playing any different. You're not thinking differently. You're not stepping outside of the box. So if you were to get a completely random race, while everyone else got a random race, that makes the game completely different, and you're getting your money's worth. Now, with games that have replayability, the problem, it's not the games. Like, I don't think it's the games at all. It's the mindset about replayability and not. Because people tend to think that games that have replayability are definitely worth what they're paying for. Not entirely the case. One, because if you took two games, one has a lot of replayability and one doesn't. And the chances are, unless you only have that one game, you're not going to keep going back to it. I mean, yeah, you'll play it. I mean, if you play your games, you'll play them more than once. But like Arkham Horror, there's a good one. Arkham Horror will throw you into a world and it'll be completely different each time you play. But if you're thrown into a world like that, or if you're playing those games, they're long games. So it doesn't really matter if it's going to be different each time. Because by the time you roll back to it, if you're trying to play, Sherlock Holmes and Time Stories don't really count because they're deduction games. But if you're playing non-replayability games, then by the time you roll back to it, you're gonna forget what works, or you're gonna be like, oh well, this strategy works, but I'll try something different. Blood Rage, not really a game with a lot of replayability. You see the cards enough. The clans have no special powers, so the game is almost going to be the same. The only thing random about it is what's being destroyed. But I've played that game 4 times now, and I've had a blast each and every time because it allows you to think differently. Nothing's random. I mean, technically, yeah, the cards that you're drafting are random, but you get enough in the hand that you're dealt of what strategy you really want to follow. Now, by the time you roll back to that, it's fresh, it's new. So, yeah, I mean, you get your money's worth the same way you would anything else. Now, games that don't have replayability, the Time Stories, Sherlock Holmes, Pandemic Legacy. I'm doing a Pandemic Legacy series, so if you were to think about money, which I think is really the crux of why people will love one and hate the other, or just give one genre a bad rap. I think that with games that don't have a lot of replayability, people hear that if I handed them a game and I'm like, well, we can play this once, but that's pretty much it. They're oh God, no, I don't want to play that, and it's like, or I don't want to buy it. It's like, well, do Pandemic Legacy, for example. You play that game over a series of 12 months. If you lose every single month, you could have up to 24 games. So it's either 12 games or 24 games. 12 games. That's 12 games in one purchase. And, I mean, each game, on average, takes about an hour. Unless you watch my series. Hour to 2 hours. Unless you lose and you're doing the game, then you're doing the month again. So it could go to 4 hours, but you don't have to sit there and play both times. So if you do the math, that game was, I think, $60 or $60 to $80, But, I mean, if you're doing 60, that's divided by 12 if you win every month. So that's $5 a month. You pay, if you have Netflix, you pay an $8 subscription. So that's already less than what you pay monthly for Netflix. And if you're playing with more than one person, even if you're playing with 2 people for Pandemic Legacy, that is a $2.50 purchase. So if you break it down that way, you're still getting your money's worth. You sat down, you had a great time in an evening with whoever you're wanting to play with, your friends, your spouse, your girlfriend, your family, even yourself. Like, you had a great time playing. So the fact of I'm not getting my money's worth out of it, you are. Like, that's the thing, is you are. Unless, like, the game just went atrociously for you. But even then, that's just random. So if you're trying to be like, well, I'm getting more of my money's worth out of this one, but not out of this one, it's like, well, games that have high replayability doesn't make them good games. I mean, there are games that I personally don't like that have a lot of replayability. There's Comet, there's Cyclades, there is Merchants and Marauders. Merchants and Marauders I like a little bit more now. But those games, yeah, high replayability. Get a different captain in Merchants and Marauders, get to try a different ship, you can try to be a merchant or a pirate, you can try and do a little bit of both, there's going to be different events. Like that one has a lot of replayability. Comet, you have all the different tiles of what you're wanting to play. You can be like, well, I'll go all for the red tiles, all for attack, or all for defense, or all for faith. Or I can try mix and match, and then and those have high replayability. But for me, I didn't care. I'd much rather sit down, and I've played Time Stories twice. I've done the Marcy case and I've done the Asylum case, and sat there for at least 3 to 4 hours. I can never go back. And play those games. I know the answer. But that doesn't dismiss the fact that I sat there with, my best friends, played for at least 3 hours, and had a hell of a time. Besides, Time Stories, base game, once again, I maybe $60. 4, so that was, 4 hours, so, I mean, $20, not even that, $15 an hour, divide that between the 4 of us, it's still incredibly cheap. And then even the expansion, the Marcy case, it was like $20. So I personally believe that once you get the mindset of, hey, I'm not getting my money's worth, once you get that out of the picture, you will be able to enjoy a wider variety of games, because it's all about having fun. It's all about the experience of what you're getting out of the game. And hell, if you don't want to buy a game because you're only going to get to play it once, then split the cost, or get it cheaper, trade it, or find someone else who has it and play it with them. I understand if you want to own games that have high replayability, because then you can play them over and over and over and over, and that's understandable. But what I'm trying to get at, and what I think the author of that article, it was like Board Game Table, I think what he was trying to get at was that these games, that even these are the examples he gave, were Pandemic Legacy, Time Stories, Sherlock Holmes, Consulting Detective. These games are trying to bring a different genre to the table. They're trying to give people a unique experience, a unique one-time experience that is so far different from anything that a game with high replayability can bring. Because those games, the one-time play games, are probably the most thematic you'll find. Like Time Stories, I felt like I was in the asylum. I felt like I was trying to fight through a zombie apocalypse. I felt like I was really trying to deduce what was going on in Sherlock Holmes. I feel like I'm trying to solve an epidemic in Pandemic Legacy. And with games with high replayability, yeah, there's some that are thematic, but only if you have a high imagination. That may sound weird, but when you're diving into these kind of games, whenever you're trying to escape from reality, games that throw in a whole lot of randomness, especially for setup, I don't think they do it quite as much as these one-time play games. And this is all, by the way, this is all my personal opinion. Like, I mean, clearly I can't be like, no, this is fact. You have to believe me. But I'm hoping that with this discussion, that you can start to see where people are coming from. I mean, if you've even played games that are like one-time plays, then, I mean, maybe you can understand where I'm coming from. But the author was just trying to say, and he mentioned he hated co-op games, which is weird. Anyway, that's a different discussion. He was just trying to say that this is a genre that I don't want to go away. Like, I'll buy these games. I bought Time Stories. I bought Pandemic Legacy. I have Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. I have all these games. And the cool thing is, here's the thing. If you buy these games, then there's going to be people out there that have that same mindset, that are like, no, I don't want to play one-time play games. And if you had bought it and you had a great time with it, like Time Stories, for example, when they're done with Time Stories doing expansions, I'm going to give it away. I mean, I have no need for it. I know all the answers. So why wouldn't I give it to someone who has that mindset, but they want to play the game, but they're like, there's not a whole lot of replay, so I guess I'm not going to get it. It's like, well, you know what? Here you go. You can have it, because I'm done with it, and you really want to play it, I can tell, so now you can experience it, and you can understand that these one-time play games are actually amazing. And you can start spreading this hobby out that people don't even seem to grasp, that there's actually a huge community of people out there who enjoy, board games. You can just give that to someone who's like, well, I don't really, and then they can give it to someone, and it just passes on like that. So, if I were to pick a side, like I did in my last one, board games versus video games, if I were to pick a side which is better, I couldn't do it. I mean, personally, yes, I love replayability. I love variety. I love setting up the board. That's my favorite thing. I love setting up the board and having it be different each time. So yes, I guess I would choose games with replayability. But it ultimately comes down to who you are as a person, who your gaming group is, how much money you have to spend, and what kind of games you like. So there's a lot of factors in there. But my whole point, I guess, was to have others understand that there is a beauty to one-time play games, and just because you can only play them one time doesn't make them bad games. So if you agree, disagree, felt like my opinion is retarded, then by all means let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoy this discussion. Like, comment, and subscribe, and tell your friends, and as always, have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.